here with Judge Joe Brown. He had his own TV show. He went to UCLA, very prolific. Um, really excited to have you here. So,
Well, it's my pleasure.
so today we're talking about food and what food you like throughout your life. So, since you grew up in LA and you went to Dorsey High School, I'm very familiar with. My aunt went there. A lot of my family went there. What was your favorite food to eat growing up in LA?
Probably hamburgers. And that morphed into Tommy burgers and fat burgers.
Fat burger?
Yeah, and there were, Lee Fat Burgers opened up the first place down there on Western, about 42nd Street. Stayed open for a long time. Then they opened up some other ones. It was always interesting. The places used to stay open 24/7. It was always entertaining. Then there was Johnny's Pastrami. There was one over on Adams. It's still there, but nowadays, if you want to see how the crack trade goes, go by there. You can get to observe. And there was another one that's still operational. It's more upscale. It's over on Sepulveda, but the two places don't even know that they were once connected. And then there was Leo's Barbecue down on Crenshaw and Golden Bird Chicken. But, I guess I was almost, I guess I was in college when some of those came up. So what did I like to eat? Well, I liked burgers when I was a kid, yeah. But later on, it was what it was.
Okay. So moving forward, when you went to law school at UCLA, you're still in Los Angeles, did you like continue eating the same food or did you like expand your palate at all?
Well, when I was in law school, I was struggling to make ends meet. There were two ladies. One was Wilma Rudolph, the track star, and her buddy, Natias, also track star. They worked at UCLA on the faculty. So they kind of adopted me. And when my broke behind was running around starving to death, they made sure I got fed. So that was always good. And in law school, I can remember a few times when I had an old Teflon skillet, a 2-eye hot plate, one of which got hot and the other one was staying warm. And I'd get a can of LeSueur baby green peas and some Cornmeal corned beef hash, mix it up, and that's what I would eat, those two cans over 2 days, washed down with copious quantities of Gallo Burgundy wine. It got better. And while I was going through law school, I was a playground director and a substitute teacher. And I worked in a photography studio when I was a bartender. So, yeah, I did these things.
Okay, that's actually really cool. But now I have like an off-topic kind of question. Since you were in law school, like
Yes.
years were you in law school? The 70s?
No. Well, yeah, the early part. I was out of UCLA Law School about 1973.
Yeah, so the 60s. Like, did you see a big transition in LA? And did that also affect like the jobs you were getting and how you were able to sustain
Well,
yourself?
well, actually, I had a girlfriend. She and I were both in grad school at UCLA, and our grades were about the same, pretty high. So we had this little experiment we did. We'd go around places and see who got hired. It was beautiful, intelligent. I wasn't that bad either, but she'd always get hired and I'd get turned down. So I did what I did, and I was working with two friends who became lifetime friends at a place called Trinity Avenue Elementary School.
Mhm.
We had two interesting students on our campus. One you know, is the late Barry White, the singer. And I remember him as a little skinny 12, 13-year-old kid on the playground. And the other one was Tookie Williams, who was the last person executed in California. He started the Crips. We tried to get him out of the swamp, but his mother wouldn't let him go. So he kind of became the baddest alligator in the swamp. But it was interesting. We had a number of sisters that helped us out. I'd like to commend two of them, a Vivian Parker and a Tracy Reed, who was on Love American Style. She was in Car Wash. She was the waitress that was the girlfriend of the guy with the big afro. She had a career in that, but she'd always bring herself down, work at that elementary school, and it was kind of an interesting place. Let's just say that absent one other person who was the playground director, the late Clifford Stewart, martial artist supreme, we couldn't get any black males to come down there, except, well, one guy, he's now deceased, Celestus Blair, who went to UCLA too. So we tried to do what we could do, and we wound up taking every Wednesday 120 to 200 kids between first grade and seventh grade. We'd get transportation. So it was me, a Dr. Ron Chappelle, who was the playground, one of the directors, Dr. Clifford Stewart, now deceased, and Judge Joe Brown. And the three of us would have 200 children who would be so quiet that people would walk up afterwards and say, "Oh my God, I didn't realize you had any children down here. How did you keep them so quiet?" They say, well, they responded to young manhood. We made sure that they had something to do. We set up a thing on that elementary school campus, and we had a radio station. I was the DJ. We showed movies, and we tricked somebody into that. This distributor said, if you can get me somebody who's a licensed projectionist, you can get all the movies you want. So Ron Chappelle was the only black man who was a licensed projectionist in the state of California. And he pulled out his idea and said, here you go. He said, you tricked me. Yeah, we did. But, you know, it's pretty good. So we sold hot dogs and stuff like that to raise money, and we got those given to us. And we were activists, and there were some interesting adventures that took place on that playground, and we recruited the whole neighborhood to help out with these children. So they approved of what we were doing. And whereas Cliff was the first playground director that did not get run out of the place, I think his predecessor had a Volkswagen, and the neighborhood turned it upside down and burned it. They sent the one before that to the hospital, but we didn't have any problem. We had community allies.
So you made it through.
Oh, it wasn't a matter of making through. We helped the kids make it through, and we kind of uplifted the whole neighborhood at the time.
That's really cool. Okay, so fast forward to
Yes, ma'am.
when you had the Judge Joe Brown show, which I was a huge fan of.
Yes.
What did you eat on set? Was it a set, or was it the actual courtroom, or was it like a set? And what did you?
They had a set.
Yeah.
Maybelline Ephraim was at the end of the sound stage. That's with divorce court.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was, right next to it, literally 5 feet away, was Judge Judy's set. And she and I were in the same CBS unit with Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Phil. And actually, it was kind of funny. I had a lot of problems because I was a straight black man, and a lot of people did not like the idea of working with a straight black man, and said so. So a guy named Roger King came in, and he had discovered Oprah and Phil and had been managing Oprah's affairs. And when CBS brought him in with Oprah and Phil and gave him Judy and me, he wound up coming to me, straight up ex-football playing type of guy. And he said, they're treating you wrong because you're straight. I'm going to fix that up. So in the several years he had us, I moved from last place. I started beating Phil, then I started beating Oprah every week, and I started tromping on Judy's heels. And every time I'd start beating her to be number one in the ratings, they'd change her rating scheme so she could stay ahead.
What?
I mean, it was really crude what they did. See, you never knew that I was beating Oprah in the ratings. She's the superstar, right? I had the show for 15 years. But like, well, some of the paparazzi said there is an A list, a B list, and a C list. But we don't make the list. Your studio does that. And the studio says who their VIP stars are. And you aren't on any list from your studio, which was CBS and before that Paramount. So I remember one time this guy was a fan and he came up, started making it ado about taking pictures of me on the red carpet. And his colleagues were saying, well, who is that? The guy said, well, that's #1 TV show in America. He said he is. And he showed him the ratings book from Nielsen. And so I'll be damned. How come we never heard of you? Would you just get this show? No, I'm headed for, at that time, 10 years. What? You know, see, that's how they roll. Hollywood has an agenda. And they're really foul about pushing that agenda, and they don't mind backstabbing you, cutting your throat, putting you in all kinds of compromised situations. And I look at what happened with Bill Cosby. And I remember I had this show for about a month, and it was turning out to be a hit. So they had a big thing down here at the Beverly Hilton, you know, Wilshire and Santa Monica intersect. And you know, I was a bachelor and I was enjoying dancing with all of the beautiful starlets and movies, TV soaps and all this stuff. And I kind of hooked up with a woman and we were spending time together at this thing. We were sitting at a table. She got up, excused herself for to the ladies' room. She came back after an extended stay. And she said, you know that tall guy over there in the gray suit? I said, yeah. Said he walked up and offered me $2,000 cash if I'd signed this note saying you tried to cop feels on me. I said, what? So we went around and found every one of the women that I had danced with, and they all said the same thing. So she took down the note about what had happened, and each of them signed. Now, about a month and a half later, about 2 months later, I hired this sister who came out of Mississippi, and she was a former Miss Washington, D.C. I hired her as my publicist. And Mel Brooks had this play and then a musical and then a movie. It was called The Producers, and the theme was that if the show flopped, you could steal more money than you make if it was a hit. So the guy that was the CEO was trying to make the show flop, but I hired his sister so it wouldn't flop. So we decided to set them up. We created a fictional woman and we filed these affidavits and had them sealed with human resources for the studio. So after 3.5 months of setting them up and running the scam on them, they came up with a letter supposedly from this fictional woman accusing me of trying to proposition her for sex in return for employment. So when they're going through all of this, I told them basically to F off, and we had human resources bring over the sealed box with the affidavits in them showing how they'd been set up stage after stage, and they had to shut up. And every one of them, including the CEO at the time for Paramount, was gone in 6 weeks, and I was there for 13 and a half more years. Wow. So you have to work with them like that because they're treacherous.
But what did you eat?
What did I eat? I said that because I was trying to remember. Um, I think that was about time that I took back up with a woman that I'd had an affair with, and we wound up getting married somewhere in and about that, maybe a year after that. So we went ordinary places in LA, and we tended to do just about everything from our joint perspective.
These
After
burgers, like, was that still your
we
favorite?
got married, she liked to go rib stale. No, not by then. Prime rib, stuff like that. I still to this day practically like everything except seafood. I don't do seafood. So we used to go to Spago's a lot. And
I love
we'd go
Spago.
places like that. Yes, Spago's is nice.
They have good.
And I used to date Frida Payne before I got back with the person I wound up marrying last. And Frida and I used to go by Spago's all the time. So she's the singer. She was Beyonce for our generation. And I'll confess to having had a poster of her up in every room of my apartment at one time. But we wound up dating for 8 years on and off.
Oh,
And we go to Spago, some places in Westwood, some other places around and about the city. Sunset was good for that. Westwood was good for it. So burgers, no, not then.
pass.
Moved on.
Pass. Okay.
Whoa, way past.
Okay, I see that. That's cool. So after you retired, essentially, because I know you still do things, but you retired from the Judge Joe Brown show and stuff like that. What's your favorite cuisine now? Like, what do you like to eat today?
Well, let me say this. I do service and sauce.
Service and sauce?
Yeah.
What's that?
Judge Joe Brown, JJB, barbecue, BBQ. And if you go to jjbbbq.com, you can order some. It'll be on the store shelves in a couple of months, but everybody that's tasted it says it's great stuff, the best they've had. So we do
Oh,
barbecue sauce, seasoning, chicken links, uh, smoked and raw, hot and mild. And by the way, that is put up for us by the only black packing plant in California that's USDA certified.
wow. Oh, now
We
I
also have some other products. Yeah, all
have.
right. So I will say barbecue because I have an interest. So that's the sauce. Service, which is what I'm doing now,
Yeah.
and sauce. And on the service side, they talked me into running for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee next year, which is the largest predominantly black city in the United States. It's bigger than Atlanta, and it is predominantly black. White people are only 19.1% of the registered voters, though we have a problem with corrupted election machines. So elections are problematic, but yeah, the slogan is JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee, send Brown downtown. That's the service. And the sauce is jjbbbq.com. And we're also going to come out with these Beyond Meat links. So they'll be health wise. And what we serve is good on pork, beef, goat, lamb, chicken, turkey, duck, goose. And if you want to try it, you live in Los Angeles, go down to D's Original Takeout Grill on the corner of 79th and Western, and you can get the real deal. And it is very, very good. Chef Damon, who does a lot of catering for Beyonce and that crew, he was doing something else and he decided to come out of this STEM field and do cooking. So he works the business down there, and it's great stuff through D's Original Takeout Grill on the corner, which would be the southeast corner of 79th and Western. It's great stuff.
Okay.
Now, that's the connection for food and what I was leading up to instead of talking about what my favorite
You're so
food is.
smart.
Hopefully, that will become one of your favorites.
I love barbecue sauce. I don't like ketchup. I hate ketchup, but it's just sugar sauce. But I love barbecue sauce.
Well,
Like, do you?
and this
Okay, I have
stuff
a
is good
question.
on French fries. It's
I'm
good
gonna,
on French fries instead of ketchup.
yeah.
It's good on a lot of things. We even had a recipe with various kinds of greens. You can put it on that. You'll like that.
What?
And we call it the hot Mary, which is interesting. Instead of
Spicy.
having a Bloody Mary, you take the barbecue sauce, you put ice in it, and vodka, and a stick of celery, and you've got a good substitute for a Bloody Mary. I call it a hot Mary.
That sounds good. But
And
okay,
another
I have a
thing I
question.
would
Wait, wait,
recommend, I want to recommend a food from a young lady that has a whiskey company she named after her father.
I think who are you talking
It's
about?
called Poppies.
Oh no, no.
And they have, her name is Michelle too, but her last name is Dukes.
Mm,
So anyway, it's very good stuff. It's called Poppies. And, you know, I don't drink much these days, but I used to do bourbon. And I'll tell you, it's smoother than Jack Daniels. It's on the same level with Blanton's, Booker's, Bulliet, and Knob Creek. So that's out there too. And my concern is affiliated with hers. So,
okay.
yeah.
I have a specific question. So,
Yes, ma'am.
so with your barbecue sauce, because my granddad was a chef. Um, I remember he would make his barbecue sauce with wine. Do you like wine or just straight bourbon or
Well,
whiskey? Is that how you make
let
it?
me put it this way. If I were going to use it as a table sauce,
Uh-huh.
what I'd do is I'd cut it 50-50 with either beer or a red wine, or if you don't want to use anything alcoholic, a malt vinegar will do nicely.
Yeah, I think it tastes better with wine. So I,
Yeah, well, I mean, it is your option. And let me tell
yeah,
you how you can fix up some ribs that if you want. You know how to peel ribs, either beef or pork.
I don't eat meat, but I go on.
Okay, well, you don't eat meat. Well, all right, well, for anybody that's listening,
Yeah, teach me something.
you don't have to use ribs. Let's say you take shoulder or you take brisket or tri-tip. Well, I would suggest that you crisscross some cuts, top and bottom, in the roast. And what you do is get yourself some Italian seasoning, dressing, Italian dressing. What you want is the seasoning in there. Get yourself some honey, flavored honey. Smear the honey on the meat generously. You can do this chicken too. And when you get through smearing that on the meat, you smear on the Italian dressing. It doesn't make any difference what kind it is, just so long as it's Italian, light, thick, whatever. And at that point, you get a big container of paprika, pour a third of it out, put the barbecue powder that I offer or some other barbecue powder in it, mix it up, and hit the bottom of the meat, either rib slab or the roast or the bird heavily, and do it on the top. And at that point, you're good to go. Put it on your grill or your pit, brown one side, brown the other, and then move it off of the fire down toward the end so it doesn't burn, and come back in about 4.5, 5 hours if you pay careful attention to what's going on. And if you have a thermometer installed so you can keep it between 180 and about 220, 250 degrees maximum. More toward 180, 200 is better so the meat does not sizzle. If it sizzles, it's frying and you don't want fried meat.
Yeah.
Now, you can do fish too. you can also do this near meat thing that they serve, which might be acceptable to you, but you can also put this stuff on greens. Turnip and collard greens mixed together do quite well, or turnip and mustard, and you add this to it. So you can go do that. And I like it on French fries.
Facts. Facts. Mustard,
Yes,
mustard and barbecue sauce. It's my thing.
yes, mustard greens. But I just gave everybody a lightweight recipe
You
for how you
did.
fix up some ribs.
I'm gonna save
Yes.
that as a clip. That's really cool. Okay, so last and final question. Now knowing that you really love barbecue, it seems like you love meat like throughout your life.
Well, you know what? I have to do my part in asserting myself at the top of the food chain so some of these animals don't get too arrogant and get too rambunctious. So they can say, oh, we better watch him. He eats us. Yes. You
So,
know, I had 14 horses at one time on this ranch I had up in Ohio
mhm,
with my ex. When we broke up, I had to get rid of everything. But one of the ways of keeping a horse in line is to get off, hold him by the reins, look him directly in the eye, and lick your lips and say, And they say, wait a minute, these guys used to eat us. Maybe I need to chill and be very obedient. Looks like he's thinking these thoughts again. We don't need to have, oh no, oh, boss, please, boss, can I have another chance? And then see if you get one of these bombardier jackets, A2 jacket made out of horsehide. They can smell that and say, take a smell. You know what that is, don't you? That's one of you. You could be one of these, Doesn't it look nice?
intimidation tactic.
Oh,
Oh God, help me. Okay. Well, back to my question. Okay, knowing that you love barbecue and stuff throughout your life and all this stuff, like what's today, is barbecue your favorite thing to eat? Like just today. Today.
actually, no, I kind of like red beans and rice now. I like stuff like that. I do a lot of veggie stuff, these days. Every now and then you know, the urge comes down on you. But oh damn, I need to stop that. I can't help it.
I feel you. Okay, well, this
Mm,
this was really
I
fun.
like greens. I like greens. And I'll tell you something else I'm partial to. There's absolutely no food value. I like the lettuce wedge, iceberg lettuce. Don't cut it up. Blue cheese is good on it. I like cheese. Matter of fact, I like to make up my own blue cheese. Uh, Something that is tasty. If you get the Philadelphia cream cheese, especially the kind that comes in the plastic tub, and if you take a blue cheese, crumble some of it up, stir it around in there, and come back in about a month. It's in your refrigerator, and the whole thing will have marbled up just like blue cheese. Absolutely delicious. And sometimes I'll take a white cheddar or something like that. And what you want to do is take your Roquefort, your blue cheese, or your Stilton, any kind of marbled cheese. You take a sharp knife, you stick it in the marbled cheese, and stick it in the onion. You just go back and forth, and then put the other one away for a while. And when you come back, you've got a marbled cheese. You can get some interesting flavors. But I like cheese too. So cashews are all kinds of things you can do with plants, and I like most of them. I'm not extremely fond of lima beans, but I eat them, and I'm very fond of just about everything else you can come up with.
Okay, so at this stage in life,
Rabbit food.
rabbit, that's what people say about me. I eat rabbit food. But yeah, so like now at this,
Makes your nose makes your nose twitch and your ears wiggle, but rabbit food is rabbit food.
it's good for you.
Yeah, well, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today. It was very
Well,
eye-opening and fun.